The statement was written with the help of an individual who's both Jewish and the descendants of Holocaust survivors. To suggest that remembering the Holocaust and acknowledging all of the people, Jewish, gypsies, priests, disabled, gays, and lesbians, I mean, it is pathetic that people are picking on a statement. I remember we issued a statement at Christmas time calling Christ the King, and many of the reporters that are in this room and otherwise started wondering whether we're referring to the King as the president-elect. Do you know how offensive that was to Christians? I mean, the idea that you're nitpicking a statement that sought to remember this tragic event that occurred and the people who died in it is just ridiculous. I think he acknowledged the suffering that existed and wants to make sure that it's enshrined in the American people's memory so that something like this never, ever happens again. And I think to sit there and suggest that he was trying to single out anything, and a people of which he has shown such tremendous respect for, and such a willingness in terms of the state of Israel to go out there and show the partnership that it needs to exist between us and the respect. And when you contrast that, frankly, a statement, and you look at the actions of the last administration, the Iran nuclear deal, them giving Palestine an equal footing in terms of the amendment that was passed to the UN Security Council on their way out the door, to compare a statement that remembers the Holocaust with the actions of the last 8 years and the disrespect that was shown to Israel is unbelievable.
I'm talking to a former official in the Obama administration from Homeland Security. They're saying that what you're doing is very different from what they did, and it's much more restrictive. What do you say to that?
We're going to put the safety of Americans first. We're not going to wait and react. As I said in the statement, the president's going to be very proactive with protecting this country. We're not going to wait till we get attacked and figure out how we can make sure it doesn't happen again. He's going to do everything in his power to stop every threat that we face in this country and every potential threat. And that's the key point in this. How do we get ahead of threats? How do we keep America ahead of the curve when it comes to people who want to do us harm? And that's what the president's done, is he's made sure that every way possible we get down the path of securing this country, putting America's safety and security first and foremost, bar none.
The president is signing another executive order. Let's listen in.
In terms of regulation, these folks are small business owners, and they're great people. They've been representative of the community, the small business community. If you have a regulation you want, number one, we're not going to approve it because it's already been approved probably in 17 different forms. But if we do, the only way you have a chance is we have to knock out 2 regulations for every new regulation. So if there's a new regulation, they have to knock out 2. But it goes far beyond that. We're cutting regulations massively for small business and for large business, but they're different, but for small business. And that's what this is about today. And this will be the biggest such act that our country has ever seen. There will be regulation, there will be control, but it will be a normalized control where you can open your business and expand your business very easily. And that's what our country has been all about. Should I sign it? That's great. That's a big one. Do you have anything to say to the press, anybody? Would you like to say something to the press? Anybody? Become famous back in Syracuse?
President Trump's executive order on refugees and foreign travelers has sparked a lot of emotional reaction. But let's take a step back and break down the facts, not just deal with phobias. The order suspends the refugee program for 120 days, okay? It caps refugee admissions at 50,000 a year. That will be a major drop from the almost 85,000 refugees who entered the U.S. in 2016. It also cuts the Obama administration's ceiling of 110,000 a year in half. President Trump's executive order also bars citizens from 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering America for 90 days, 3 months. Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. In 2015, about 84,000 people from these countries entered the U.S., mostly on tourist, business, and student visas, the majority traveling from Iran and Iraq. All right, let's look specifically at Syrian refugees. President Trump went a step further there. There's an indefinite ban on anyone fleeing persecution in Syria. Last year, the U.S. accepted around 12,600 Syrians, second only to refugees coming from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You will hear that Christians can't get out of Syria, but Muslims can get into the U.S. That's not true. Equal amounts of each got into the U.S. last year. So how many terror attacks have refugees actually carried out in the U.S.? According to the conservative-leaning think tank, the Cato Institute, of the more than 3 million refugees admitted from 1975 to the end of 2015, 20 were terrorists, amounting to 0.00062%. Of those 20, only 3 attacks were successfully carried out. 3 people lost their lives. So how many Americans have been killed by citizens of these countries? None. From 1975 through 2015, Cato Research says none. That same figure from Saudi Arabia, 2,369. From the UAE, 314. Egypt, 162. Why? All of these countries were home to the terrorists who carried out the 9/11 attacks, and none was targeted by this ban. Also not on the list, countries where President Trump appears to have business interests. So finally, let's take a look beyond all the heated rhetoric. How big is the actual threat here at home? Let's be honest, that's what this is about, the fear, right? According to Cato, the chance of an American being killed by a foreign-born terrorist is 1 in 3.6 million. Looking specifically at refugees, that statistic jumps to 1 in 3.64 billion with a B. 2015 data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows us you're actually more likely to die being struck by lightning, being hit by a bus, falling out of your bed than you are of dying in a terror attack. The number in that study, by the way, that Cato did does not include the 14 killed in the December 2015 shooting in San Bernardino. However, if you put that number in, it's still lower than the other causes of death listed.
A U.S. think tank says there are signs the country has likely resumed operations at a plutonium production reactor. That coming from the 38 North monitoring project that points to new satellite images showing the North's main nuclear site. Let's head out to Seoul and our Alexandra Field standing by with the details. Alex, what do these satellite images show?
Look, they're being closely watched and closely monitored by this group in the U.S. 38 North, and this group says that this shows that activity has resumed at the country's main nuclear facility. What they are looking at in that image that has raised the most concern is a water plume coming off of the cooling water outlet. That is a distinct sign, they say, that shows that the reactor there is operational, though they can't glean to what extent, what power, what strength that reactor could be operational at. But this is a clear step forward if you compare it to previous satellite images that 38 North had released earlier this month. Those images suggested to the analysts at 38 North that preparations were being made to make that reactor operational once again. At the time, we were seeing images of snow that had melted on the rooftop of some of the buildings, indicating that those buildings were being occupied for the first time in some time and that there was minimal heat at least. So these latest images showing that water plume are certainly a step forward, and this does raise concern. It does continue to raise awareness really for the global community in face of the fact that Kim Jong-un announced back on New Year's Day that the country was getting ready to test an intercontinental ballistic missile, which he said would have the capability of reaching the continental United States. The activity that's being observed by 38 North here is at, again, the main nuclear facility in North Korea. It's the place where analysts believe that the plutonium was made that has been used in previous nuclear tests, Samara.
So we're seeing this increased activity as President Trump has been in office for a couple weeks now. Tell us about, are there any indications as to how North Korea plans to deal with President Donald Trump?
It's interesting. It's the question on everyone's mind, of course, because you had Kim Jong-un coming out and making that statement that the country was getting ready to do that test on New Year's Day. That's when he mentioned it. No clear timeline on when that test could happen, but there are sources in both in the U.S. and also in South Korea who've indicated that they feel that, those tests, could be very well prepared for the next couple of weeks, for the next couple of months, that this is something that Donald Trump could face early on in his administration, an early test of this administration. At the time of Kim Jong-un's announcement that this test was being readied, President Trump responded by tweeting it won't happen, basically saying that North Korea wouldn't be allowed to do something like this. It is not clear yet what Kim Jong-un's move will be, when he could be ready to launch this test. But what you do have coming up is the fact that the Secretary of Defense, Secretary Mattis, is making his first trip overseas to South Korea and Japan this week. That is meant to reassure allies of the commitment of the U.S. To their longstanding alliances here at a time when those alliances have been questioned by President Trump, who was vocal on the campaign trail, raising concerns about the level of spending that the U.S. was doing on defense in South Korea. So this is certainly a tenuous situation right now. Concerns in South Korea about the possibility of a test, and they want firm assurances from the U.S. that they've got a stable and reliable partner. So everyone will be watching this trip from the Secretary of Defense later this week to see what kind of reassurances he's able to offer his allies here in South Korea.
So yesterday I spoke to her before she takes her flight, she took her flight. I told her maybe something is gonna happen, but nothing for sure. She's really scared. Yeah, I'm really scared also, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
She's from Syria. She's coming in on Turkish Airlines. She's been cleared by all the security checks, and everything that you need to do have been done. She wouldn't have gotten the J visa if it hadn't been done. So she's perfectly eligible to enter the United States. There is no impediment except for President Trump's executive order.
you can imagine somebody that did not see his wife in the last 2 years for just like 1 week, and now he had like multiple plans with his wife, and everything is gonna be destroyed for like just like in the last 2 days. Everything just like suddenly destroyed. I hope that's not gonna happen, but like I don't know.
We should find out.
Best case scenario, she'll be out tomorrow afternoon. Worst case scenario, I may be going to court to try to get her out on bond.
I was very optimistic that she's gonna be one of these people who are released, and then I got this info that she's not gonna get out. So it's very sad. It's very scary because this is her first time that she stays outside, outside by herself, and she doesn't speak English. So it's really scary. I have no clue what's gonna happen. So I'll just like wait for tomorrow, and then I will see how things will go. I have nothing else I can do.
EU officials are still trying to figure out how this is going to impact dual nationals. So these are people who are European citizens but also have another citizenship or a dual citizenship with one of those 7 countries that now have been banned from traveling, at least temporarily, into the United States. Still clearly a lot of confusion over what this U.S. executive order really means and really what the legal implications of it are. Also, we're hearing from more and more leaders across this continent give reaction to this executive order, and many of them are condemning this. Just within the last hour or so, we heard from Guy Verhofstadt. He is a Belgian member of the European Parliament. He's also the European Parliament's main negotiator when it comes to Brexit. While on a visit to London, he said that Donald Trump now poses a danger to the EU. This afternoon, when the European Commission had its daily press briefing, we asked the Commission spokesperson what his reaction is to this executive order from Donald Trump. And here's what that spokesperson, Margarita Chinas, told reporters today.
This is the European Union. And in the European Union, we do not discriminate on the basis of nationality, race, or religion. Not only when it comes to asylum, but in any of our other policies.
So Margarita Chinas, they're saying that because the EU upholds these certain specific values, those values simply are not in line with Trump's executive order. Reporters also did ask him if this will lead to a breakdown in EU-US relations. He says the EU doesn't speculate on that, doesn't comment on that, but he does say the US remains a strategic partner with the EU.
6 people have been killed and 8 wounded after gunmen opened fire at a mosque in Quebec City during Sunday night prayers. Police said 2 suspects have been arrested. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has condemned the incident as a terrorist attack. Trudeau said Muslim Canadians are an important part of the national fabric and called the shootings senseless acts. The incident happened just 1 day after Trudeau said Canada would welcome refugees. But as our correspondent Kevin McAleese explained earlier, it is still unclear whether this attack had anything to do with the remarks.
This is Jason Liu. He makes online makeup tutorial videos.
Hello， 大家好，我 Jason， 欢迎回到我的。
He doesn't need fancy cameras, but he is able to reach several hundred thousands of audiences across social media platforms.
平时也比较喜欢彩妆这个方面，然后。
I began making videos since last March. I started it because I like to make up, but I never thought it'd become my career.
Other internet celebrities are choosing something more interactive. Li Yilin teaches her fans makeup using live broadcast and interacts with them in real time. And all she needs is a smartphone with internet connections.
My audiences are mostly high school or college students, and I interact with them very often.
Why are low-budget makeup tutorials getting popular? Analysts say social media enable conversations between internet celebrities and their audience, and young Chinese consumers love sharing advice.
50% of the young consumers will actually recommend the beauty brands they use to their friends and their families. And in US, this number is only 38.
As hundreds of thousands of young people tune in every day to learn makeup skills from internet celebrities and to get advice of what products to purchase, that opens up a wide world of marketing opportunities for cosmetics makers.
One of such companies, L'Oreal, is celebrating its 20th year in the Chinese market. Its China CEO said there's a visible trend for the past 2 decades. Customers are getting younger.
The younger consumer now are a lot into makeup. This is probably one of the biggest beauty revolution in the world.
Recent study, we think that for the young generations, i.e. post-80 and 90s, will account for more than 65% of consumption growth from 2015 to 2020.
Studies have shown that China's younger generation spend on average 3 hours per day on their digital devices. This is going to be the main channel for marketing content. The company is partnering with internet celebrities, giving them new products to try out and recommend to their audience.
Video, it's a revolution in the way that we bring content to them. It needs to be a content that is digital, that is live, and that is interactive. It needs to be totally customized for their needs, as these young consumers are very big activists and they feel very much individually for their own needs.
Jason received product promotion requests from cosmetic firms after only 2 months of making videos.
They want to get into the young people market. That's why they approach bloggers like us, because we are more relatable. We are opinion leaders in this field. We are authoritative, but we don't look as distant as big celebrities.
But don't people hate product endorsements? Li Yilin said what's special about internet celebrities is that they are able to dispel skepticisms because viewers trust them on a more personal level. She said she'd never recommend products unless she tested them herself.
People now are much more accepting towards digital promotions. They don't feel like you are force-feeding them advertisement. They are happy to get new product information from you.
Analysts say that's why companies are proactive in working with internet celebrities, as these bloggers have helped them accomplish an important step in marketing, building trust between the product and the consumers.
我们下次见，拜拜。
Yang Chengxi, CGTN, Shanghai.
Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has asked the United States to stop storing weapons in local camps. He cited the danger of entanglement if fighting erupts between China and the U.S. Duterte says he's considering canceling the agreement granting the U.S. military temporary stationing if troops build weapon depots in the encampments. The camps are in 3 areas facing the South China Sea. U.S. officials have not yet commented. To rebuild relations with China, Duterte has threatened to scale back military exercises with the U.S. and cancel agreements for troop visits.